Is the Catholic religion the true religion? I want to show you guys something really awesome. I found this on Reddit, and this is out of me doing research for the Takayama book that I'm making. If you don't know, I'm writing a book based on the life, it's a novel based on the life of Blessed Takayama Ukan, who is a Catholic samurai. He's going to be soon a canonized saint, and I'm writing a book about him. And one of the things I have to study is I have to study Buddhism, at least during that time period. And it's been interesting, right? I kind of delved into it many years ago when I was trying to find searching and meaning, but basically, long story short, his father Dario was a advocate for Buddhism, and after meeting with a missionary, he converted. And I'm trying to understand what similarities perhaps the missionary used to kind of win Dario over. And so I was looking up different questions and answers, things that are from people's side as Buddhists. And this was a question that was asked on Reddit. It said, "What can Catholicism provide that Buddhism cannot?" And I saw a lot of great answers. And I did see this one answer, which I thought was beautiful. And I think it actually can answer the question, regardless of what religion you're comparing it to, right? What you're comparing Catholicism to. And he says, "The truth, my friend. Why is the Catholic religion true? The biggest claim that makes or breaks the religion is that Jesus existed, he is God, and he died on the cross and rose from the dead. If this is true, there's no question that Catholicism is the religion to follow. Historians are pretty unanimous that Jesus existed and was put to death on the cross. There's also firm historical evidence that 10 out of 12 disciples were put to death in defense of their claims that they had seen Jesus come back from the dead. Why would they do this? There's no material gain for them to claim this was if this was false. Money, power, as you see early claims of other religions, and it was at extreme risk to them. So they must have really, really believed it. So were they just 11 nutcases? Well, they were able to miraculously spread religion as 11 penniless, uneducated Jews across the world, as far as Italy or India. Again, different to many other religions where the initial spread happened by war. To me, the only way that such people will be able to spread a religion like that is to perform miracles, as is claimed in the Bible. There are many other strong arguments for the Catholic religion, but this is my favorite." Yeah, I think this is a good answer. It's very concise. Now let's break it down a little bit. He said that, what makes or breaks our religion is the fact that Jesus existed, Jesus died, and he rose from the dead, right? Now, there is a I don't know, a weird myth going around where people like to claim that Jesus never existed in the first place, right? You got to understand, we have, like, out of all the people in history, we have the most things written about Jesus. Like, he is written about by hands down, like the most written about person. So to make that argument doesn't make sense. Secondly, there's so much archaeological evidence, not from non-biblical sources, by the way, that claim that Jesus died, right? That's like a big, very significant part, because if he died, that means he lived, which means he existed, right? That's the next significant thing. And then the resurrection, right? The resurrection is the hardest thing for people to come by because it seems so miraculous and so out of this world. Yet, as St. Paul says, without the resurrection, our hope is in vain. Our faith is in vain. There's no reason to believe any of this stuff if Jesus died. If Jesus just was a good teacher and died on the cross, there wouldn't be any Christians, because guess what? There's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people who had just really awesome things to say, good teachings, but then they just died and nothing else happened. With Jesus, he rose from the dead, right? And that is a claim we make as Christians. And, some people say, like, the argument for people dying for religion is a little weak, right? Because we have people who die for things that are not true all the time. We have people who do that, right? But my argument is this, right? For the apostles who sacrificed themselves, who were martyred for their beliefs, think about what kind of lives they led, right? What kind of lives did they have? Were they lives that were promised wealth, promised power, promised all these things? You got to think, for someone who lived in the first century, a Jewish person in the first century, which is really important when we're reading a Bible. We got to read it in the context of someone living in that time. Everything that Jesus was saying was not something that the Jews really liked, right? They wanted a military leader. They wanted someone who's going to free them from the Romans. Instead, what happened? Well, we got the sign of Jonah, right? Why did Jesus say that? We got the sign of Jonah. Well, first of all, Jesus was going to rise from the dead. But second of all, he was going to convert the pagans. He was going to convert the Gentiles. And the very people who persecuted him became the foundation for his Catholic Church, right? The Romans became the foundation for the Catholic Church, right? And I think that's important for us to remember. And it's something that, you know, for a long time, I used to get really affected when people would like kind of criticize Catholicism or criticize my religion, because I felt like I had no defense. Like I felt like, okay, I don't know how to defend myself against these things. I don't know how to address these concerns people have. Like I see people saying things all over the internet, saying things like, oh, the Catholic religion is it's super corrupt and it's all about money and power, and it's never been about adhering to the teachings of Jesus. And some people make this as a reason to leave the church because they look at the corruption that's within. And that used to affect me until I realized this: there's always bad people in anything, right? Any organization, any religion, especially with a lot of people, you're gonna have bad apples. That's just the way life is, right? There's always going to be a Judas, right? And if you think about it, statistically, Jesus chose 12 apostles. One out of 12 was a Judas. I think there's significance there, right? There's a significance that, yeah, that's a pretty high percentage, right? That's a pretty high percentage of traitors in the church. And I think that percentage stands true to this day. That's probably a high percentage, maybe even more than that, right? But that doesn't mean the message and what Jesus taught is false, right? I think people shoot I would say shoot the messenger, but that's not true. They point at the actions of a Christian doing something bad, doing something sinful, and then they think that, okay, well, God must be evil then because he's allowing this person to do that evil thing. When in reality, God gave us a free will. And I think this is it's such a simple concept, but it's something that's hard for people to understand sometimes, is that because God gave us a free will, we can choose to follow him or not. And you know what? That's an act of love. And people don't think of it that way. They see suffering in the world. They see all those things. And I'll tell you this. We'd be living in slavery if God didn't allow us to love him. If God forced it upon us. If God forced us to do these things. He doesn't force us to do anything. Now, because we have will, because we have an inclination to sin, an inclination to commit things that are not natural to the natural order, then there's going to be reparation for that, right? That's just the way it is, out of justice for the other people. And yes, are there some people that innocently suffer? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. We only see things from this point of view. We don't see things from God's point of view. So someone suffering in our eyes might seem like a tragedy, might seem like something that's awful and seem evil and seems wicked. But we're not seeing the overall picture. We don't see it as God sees things. And that's the one thing that Christianity brings, is that it brings you this feeling of surrender and not trying to be in control so much. Right? For a long time in my life, I always wanted to be in control of everything. I wanted to control my finances. I wanted to control who I would marry. I wanted to control. There's so many things in my life that I just wanted to control. I wanted constant control all the time. And it wasn't until I let go and allowed God to work, right? I allowed God's will to be done, that I felt more at peace. And the only times I don't feel at peace is when I start restricting that. When I start getting when I start to feel like I need to control things again. When I start to feel like I need to control things, that's when anxiety sets in, that's when anger sets in, that's when sin sets in, when I frankly just don't want to let go. And there's moments of that, and I'm working on it, right? We're all working on it. We're all sinners. I'm working on that every single day, right? There's so many times in the day where I just want to hold on to things. I want to do things the way I want to do them, but I got to let go and read what the Bible teaches and read what the church teaches and understand that God gave us a blueprint for how to live our life. And if we live our life according to that blueprint that he set out for us, again, we can choose it or not. We're going to have a more fulfilled, happy life. And our reward in the next life is going to be so great that it's incomprehensible what the reward is in the next life. So, I know I went on a tangent, but sometimes that's what happened on this channel. So, hope you guys get your day. See y'all next time. God bless.